Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to All We Do Is Talk. We're here with Nathaniel Moody and Isaiah Harris. How are we doing today, boys?
What's up, Eric? Big boys. We got big boys today.
Yes, sir. We got interior defensive linemen today. After number one, it should be a pretty interesting list, I would say. But hands down, we got the best defensive lineman in this group.
This
the
is
best defensive player of our generation.
Yeah, I think, sir. I think that's without saying, honestly, at this point.
I will argue. I think Darrell Revis was as dominant.
Darrell Revis has some not so dominant years. We have yet to see a not dominant year from Aaron Donald.
J.J. Watt was pretty dominant at his peak.
Yeah, that's another fair one. And Aaron Donald kind of took the baton from him after his peak of his 3-year run.
And I've always been a Khalil Mack over Aaron Donald guy because he's on the edge.
But the Aaron Donald has made being in the interior cool again. That's what Aaron Donald has done for the position. But before we get to that, we can get to these honorable mentions.
Or we could go. Since we're already started, we can start one and go down this one.
And I still think we can. I still think there's some intrigue in the top 5. I don't think you want to just take it up. No one's going to care about 6 through 10 after you talk about 1 through 5. It's like those guys don't matter. So we got to talk about the guys who are trying to fight for second place.
All right. So honorable mentions. You can go first.
So at honorable mention number 1, Leonard Williams. I thought the Giants made a really great trade, giving up that third, even though they were loaded at that position anyway. But Leonard Williams is one of those guys who has been a good, solid, productive player with the Jets. And after an so-so year with the Giants during the trade, he became a really quality player, a guy who earned almost $20 million a year contract for.
I'm pretty sure it is 20. If it's not, it's like 19.
At the 5 technique position, he had a career high in sacks, I think, although 3 of those came unblocked in week 17. So
I always got to cover people's sacks.
It's just, guys who are out here beating guys one-on-one and guys who are out here falling into plays against lesser. You love talking about guys making plays against lesser competition. That's all you can bring up. Okay. But then when I bring it up about one of your guys, all of a sudden it's, he's just doing it.
He started the video with Leo Williams disrespect. A man who single-handedly.
It's no single-handedly what? He's not the best player on your defense.
He won us the Seattle game. He was giving Russell Wilson hell.
Russell Wilson holding the ball for 5 seconds before throwing it with him was the issue in that game, as well as more coverage sacks for Leonard Williams, which is most of his production, in my opinion. But I think he's really good against the run. I don't think he's a great pass rusher, but I think he's gotten better at that position, which is why I value pass rush a little bit more. So he's just outside of my top 10. Another honorable mention, Stephon Tuitt. He's been another one of those just more than solid interior guys for the Pittsburgh Steelers have been rolling out there seemingly the entire time I've been alive. And Stephon Tuitt is just another guy in the chamber. He's really good. He makes the job easier for the rest of those guys. He had one of the highest run stop rates in the league. He can get to the quarterback too. The Steelers have one of the most loaded front sevens in football. He's a big part of that. Another honorable mention, Calais Campbell. It seemed like Father Time has finally caught up with him.
He was on the Cardinals Super Bowl team
in 2008. He's 36 years old now. He seems like he's finally Julius Peppers in his final years, where it's like, all right, bro, you've been dominant like 15 years now. Now you're finally just good instead of the best player on the field when he's out there. But Calais Campbell is still somebody who could be a very productive player, and I expect him to have another solid season this year. Honorable mention, Joffrey Simmons. An ascending talent. Tennessee had a steal getting him late in the draft after him coming off the injury. He recovered as well as you could possibly recover, and he stepped right in and has been a very, very good football player for Tennessee. I expect him to continue to ascend and get better and better. He hit the ground running, come off the injury, and you had to think that set him back at least a little bit. So I think his upside is through the roof. And last honorable mention I'll have is Hakeem Hicks. Before 2 years ago, this guy was a top 5 interior defensive lineman, but an injury-riddled year followed by a down year. Age is kind of catch up with him a little bit, as with some other guys on that Bears front. So you don't consider him as one of the elite guys anymore, but when he's healthy and right, he's going to be a very, very productive player in that Chicago front seven.
This is going to be an interesting one because you've got a couple of guys on my honorable mention and best of the rest. You've also got a couple guys I got on the list in pretty reasonable spots on your honorable mention, so this should be interesting. But like you said, I've actually got Cameron Hayward and Stephon Tuitt on my honorable mention. Cameron Hayward literally was like 11. I think he's slipped off a little bit, and like I don't know how to grade those Pittsburgh Steelers defenders. There's so many of them, and their play tailed off so much after two of those guys left the system that I just don't know where to go with them. So I just left. I think giving them that extension will probably cost Pittsburgh in the end.
Hayward is high on my list. I'll get more into that when I get to him.
Stephon Tuitt, breakout season, career sacks. But he's also might be the guy that's falling into the most sacks because as guys run away from TJ Watt.
He's the TJ Watt of that interior D-line.
And also I've got a guy who slipped off a little bit in my opinion. I got Kenny Clark, another guy who was on my honorable mention. I've got Hakeem Hicks as well as an honorable mention, and I've got Jonathan Allen as an honorable mention. So yeah, so we're just not. So for best of the rest, I've got the two guys in Tampa Bay, Sue, still elite pass rusher, Vita Vea, ascending, but he's a little bit more one-dimensional at the moment. He can rush the passer though. I've got two more Giants players. I've got Dex Lawrence. I think he's due for a big year where he could cement himself as the best nose tackle. Him and Vita Vea are going to be fighting for that spot. And Dalvin Tomlinson on his way to Minnesota. They got a steal. He's really good at batting down passes as well, but he's more of a run stuffer. De'Aaron Payne, the other guy to the Redskins interior. I don't really know if those guys are putting in lots of work or if Chase Young and Montez Sweat are helping them.
And those guys were there first, so like those guys were showing they were showing their productivity before they began. Adding the edge back definitely raised the level of the defensive line.
And then Michael Pierce opt out, run stuffer
for the Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Jaron Reed, pass rusher, less of a run stopper. Shelby Harris, underrated for so long. Mm-hmm. Now he might be getting a little overrated. Derek Brown Jr., up and coming.
Yeah,
and Javon Hargreaves, former Steeler guy
in Philly,
and he was good. So I'm
definitely high on the New York Giants guys, Dexter Lawrence, and the guy who's going to Minnesota, and Dalvin Tomlinson. I thought Dalvin Tomlinson was arguably the best interior defensive lineman y'all had last year.
That's because Leo plays some edge.
Yeah, and I don't think Leo's an edge, and which I think he plays out there too much, kind of may hurt his production. But a lot of his free sacks usually come from him playing out there. But Dexter Lawrence is definitely the most talented player of those three, in my opinion, and I think he'll be the breakout player this season, and which will make you question why you gave Leonard Williams $20 million a year. I think you underrated Vita Vea. Vita Vea definitely made my top 10 list.
He's been hurt so much.
Yeah, but he came back in the Super Bowl and was a dominant player.
Yeah, right? But he's also another guy who's on a team full of other guys that are getting lots of attention.
That's true.
And he was the guy that flashed the least in the Super Bowl.
Now, this might be some confirmation bias because Vita Vea was a guy who I was in love with in the draft. I thought he was a surefire top 10 player in his draft. He's been nothing but productive, gigantic man who can give you – he's an automatic run stopper just off of his size and strength. But he rushes the passer at a high level as well, so I really like him a lot as well too. But I think we can go ahead and get through our 10 through 6. I'll go ahead and get started with my 10. I had Quinn Williams from the Jets. This guy he had a rough start. I think he playing out of position as more of like a nose tackle 5 technique.
So you put Quinn Williams over Leo Williams?
Yes, I think Quinn Williams. I think Quinn Williams is going to. I think in 2021, if I had to take a player for this season, I would rather have Quinn Williams. I think he's going to get unlocked in the 4-3 scheme from Robert Saleh, playing a 3 technique as a pass rusher. I expect his pass rusher numbers to shoot through the roof just off of his ability because he's a fantastic football player. Ultra talented. He went top 3 for a reason, and now that he's in a scheme that's more like to his abilities, I just see him having a ridiculous season. Double-digit sacks. He's already a good run player. He's shown flashes as an interior pass rusher last year. There was talks about the Jets trading him, but that was never going to be a thing. He's just too talented. They know that. He's going to be a centerpiece in that defense for Robert Saleh next year. At number 9, I had Kenny Clark. If Kenny Clark, I'm okay with having Kenny Clark off the list as you had him, but I still think he's a guy who really, really gets it done. He had a high peak for a short period of time, but now he's kind of like regressed back to more of just like, all right, I'm just a very, very good player.
My only question is they got better edge guys around them, and then he regressed. So that's kind of like crazy.
I mean, yeah, maybe they also said they're taking production from him as well because he's probably opening up for those guys. I don't always think Zadarius Williams and Preston aren't guys who are just automatic bendy beating guys. They went off a twist and those type of things too. So Kenny Clark is one of those guys who I think he takes a little bit back because he's helping guys make plays, but I still think in this old right he's really, really good. And number 8, I got Jonathan Allen. His talent is through the roof. I think he's a dominant football player. I think he's probably the second best player in that defensive line behind Chase Young, in my opinion.
Montez Sweat is a monster.
I like Montez Sweat. I don't love Montez Sweat. I think Montez Sweat is more athlete.
He's probably the best
productive football player.
Best second pass rusher in the league. But we'll
that's up for debate. I like Jason Pierre-Paul more than I like Montez Sweat right now. But I like Montez Sweat a lot though. But Jonathan Allen to me is the guy who makes it all happen on the interior. He's really, really stout in the run game, and he pushes the pocket in the passing game, and he forces those guys to run into Chase Young, to run into Montez Sweat. Those guys are those freakish athletes. Jonathan Allen's the guy who's pushing that pocket, the guy who's clashing.
Did they pay him?
Yeah, paid him. Jonathan Allen did get a bag this year. He does suffer with some injury problems, which is why I have him a little bit lower. I think he's deserving of being higher on this list, but he's got to find a way to be more consistently healthy. And with the Washington football team having such a loaded front around him, I think he's the best player in the interior, and I think he's just so good. At number 7, I got Vita Vea. I think Vita Vea is a monster. Like, the injuries have made it hard for him to show that consistently, but when he's out in the field, he's unstoppable. He massive human being, pushes the pocket, collapses it completely. He can't run in his direction whatsoever at all. He bench presses, tosses your interior lineman out of the way. He gets in the backfield. He's a great athlete. He can get sideline to sideline and chase the ball carrier as well. The only thing holding him back is injury issues. If he's healthy, he's a dominant. He's one of those few guys who's a nose tech, one technique, who can also be a dominant pass rusher, one of the best pass rush wingmates in the NFL.
Hurt in college, hurt in the NFL. Yeah. We'll wait to see if he overcomes those.
That's a very good point. And at number 6, I have Mr. Underrated himself, Grady Jared. 3 sacks in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Everybody knows that. Now it's unfortunate. He's another guy on the a defensive lineman who's been a really great player on a really bad defense. And it's just
he still flashes.
But it's just unfortunate. Like, that's got nothing to do with him though. He still is a productive player. He still makes plays. You still can't run in his direction. He still's going to collapse the pocket and get after the quarterback. Grady Jared is one of the best 3 techniques in the NFL. He's been that way for a long time. I don't expect that to change now. I think he's getting a little bit older. He's probably creeping up on 30, if not hitting on the wrong side of it at this point. But the production is there, and he's been one of the best guys for a really, really long time. I value his skins on the wall as a vet in this league, and I think he's deserving of a top 6 spot as an interior defensive lineman in the NFL.
You want to go through your 10 through 6 one more time?
Quinn Williams at 10, Kenny Clark at 9, Jonathan Allen at 8, Vita Vea at 7, Grady Jared at 6.
All right, we're most of the guys that I'm gonna have in my 10 through 6 we've talked about, so let's just breeze through it. Number 10, I have Calais Campbell. Like you said, he's been elite for so long. Now he's dropped down to just really good. Now he might continue to fall, but last year he was still a very good player in my opinion. On a very underwhelming defensive front 7 for the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion. They've gotten a little better.
They dominated. He was great in that playoff game against Derrick Henry. So that was one of his better efforts.
They brought him in, but I think his best days are clearly behind him, and he's a guy that's probably not going to be a top guy after this season if he continues to decline. At number 9, I have a guy who's been living off his name better than anybody, probably as good as Demarcus Lawrence has. At number 9, I have Mr. Fletcher Cox for the Philadelphia Eagles.
At 9?
I don't think he's as good as he's been.
No, you watch too much Philadelphia Eagles football.
So I can confirm to you.
Cox this low on the list.
I think Fletcher Cox's last 2 seasons have not been what people have made him out to be. Maybe it's because the defense is just so bad, but he used to flash.
It's because their back seven is Jalen Mills been their number 1 corner.
He used to flash. They've had Darius Slay.
They're always solid against the run.
That's because they always have a bunch of other guys around them too, like Hargreaves, who I think Hargreaves flashed a little bit
they
more.
brought in Malik Jackson, and he didn't do anything for them.
They also had Graham. So I thought Graham. When I watched Philadelphia last year, Graham and Hargreaves popped off, and I think Fletcher Cox has been living off his name for a little bit too long. But he's still a very elite, borderline elite in my opinion now. And I think next year, don't be surprised if that's the end of Fletcher Cox being an elite player for sure, from everybody's opinion. Number 8, I have Quinn Williams. Like Moody said, he's one of the guys that's probably I like a guy better than him, in my opinion, ahead of him. But Quinn Williams is probably one of the best young interior defensive linemen in the league. I think you've overrated him a little bit more than.
I mean, you have him higher than I have on my list.
You made him seem like. Well,
how am I overrating him if he's higher on your list than he is on mine?
I think the way you blushed about him.
I think he's a terrific football player. I just think he has to play more.
I think he's still really, really raw.
And because they were playing him really, really out of position.
He was playing like 5.
Yes, and
when he came out of the league, I was told he was going to be able to play anywhere along the line.
He's going to get the shoot,
and that's why
he's going to get the shoot to be guy. Yeah, and you saw he had to learn how to play that position because that's not what he was doing. He had to learn how to go be a 3-5 technique. Now he can go be a pass rushing 3. And I think you're going to see a massive jump.
Well, like you said, Quinn Williams, he's probably jumping into the top 5 if everything goes right. But let's not forget, I'm going to bring up the example. Leo Williams had a big first couple seasons and then tailed off when teams figured him out for a little bit until he got into the scheme that fit him perfectly. So we'll wait and see because nothing is guaranteed when we're talking about the Jets. Number 7, a guy that we have about equally rated. I think it's the same number, Grady Jared.
And the what?
Grady Jared. Where do you have him? I have 7. He's my 7. Yeah. He's tailed off a little bit. So is the guys around him on the Atlanta Falcons defense. He also probably had one of the worst defensive coaches coaching him up. So good luck to the Dallas Cowboys with that.
Dan Quinn is not a bad defensive coach. I think that's crazy.
They were terrible last year with Dan Quinn, and they look better with Raheem Morris.
They lost 2 safeties this season getting injuries before the season even started. Right away.
By the time Raheem Morris got their hand on them on that defense, they looked so much better.
You know, we getting fired, coach bump. You know how that works. Like when John Kitna was out here tearing the league up when Jason Garrett showed up. Guys play harder.
Brady Jared can still ball out. They probably should have traded him this offseason before Julio.
Yes, they should.
But I don't know what people were looking for. I mean, he put up some bad film to start the year because I think he was getting some bad coaching. I think his coach wasn't doing him much. So Brady Jared, hopefully he gets a resurgence. I don't know who their new defensive coordinator is. Probably New England guy.
Dan Pease from Tennessee.
Yeah, okay. They got PK from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So a New England style coach. So we'll see.
So he'll be playing out of position next year. That's
if he could, I think he'll look at that Leo Williams, that Richard Seymour position that they made famous.
I don't think that's his thing. I don't think he's like a big enough, stout enough runner for him to be doing that.
And number 6, I've got my favorite young interior defensive lineman. I've got Joffrey Simmons. I think he's better than Quinn Williams. I think he's proven it, and I think
I'm more shocked at who you have in your top 5. Please keep going.
And I think if Joffrey Simmons didn't suffer that Achilles injury, which who can know by the way he plays now that he suffered an Achilles injury, that he would become this because he's recovered from it excellently. And like Moody said, if it really was holding him back, now that he's a few years removed from him, watch out, and he fits that New England scheme very well.
He's more likely to be a Richard Seymour guy than I think the Grady Jared is. But that's high. I don't think he's been good.
He's really good.
He's been good.
Ever since he stepped onto the field, he's
been good. But I don't know if he's been a top 5, top 6 interior guy. I think he's shown the potential. I think his flashes have been that good. But I don't know if play every down.
Let's not forget his secondary was his best season. His secondary was really bad.
I mean, yeah, that's fair, and I think he's a guy who he's more likely to end 6 on this list than just be 6 right now.
I'll take what
I understand. All right. But when we talk about your top 5, there's just no way you put him. You launched him to the moon like that.
No,
you didn't even want to pay him the money.
I did.
But we'll get to that later. I'll go through my top 5 first. At number 5, I got Mr. Consistent, still a stud. Wish we had taken him in 2012, Fletcher Cox. He's just been solid dominant 3 technique for a very, very long time.
He's not that much higher on your list than he is on mine.
Yeah, he's not that much higher, but it's more about who you have ahead of him than where you have him on this list, because I can understand the Philadelphia Eagles haven't been as good, so he obviously, him not winning takes away from, I think, his
I told you, like, Graham still flashes and Harvey's
Fletcher Cox is still out there making plays.
There's those long periods of time where you watch him and
Fletcher Cox is still out there, and he's another one of those guys
who
he's getting it done for other guys. He gets other guys open. He gets other guys in their twist stunts and their twist game and things like that. Fletcher Cox is still, I think he's still the best defensive player on that interior. Jamal Hargrave was not as good as Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is still the man on that defensive line.
I didn't say Hargrave was better, but I'm saying
I think those guys are better because of Fletcher Cox. I don't think Fletcher Cox is better because of those guys. Fletcher Cox makes those guys better because of his presence. He's the guy you have to worry about. I think he's the guy you have to game plan for every week. So that's the guy who deserves to be in the top 5. Now he's older, so we'll see. But he's a guy who still doesn't really miss games. But we'll see how he ages as he. The Eagles are going to be a struggling team, I think. So I don't know if he'll have the wins to keep up his reputation as a dominant player. But he's still one of the better defensive linemen in the NFL. And number 4, I got Deforest Buckner. I think the San Francisco 49ers made a massive, massive mistake by trading him away. They should have paid him his money.
They gave it to Armstead.
They tried to get cute. And then they
ended stuff with Javon Kinlaw.
They ended up using the pick on a defensive lineman who we'll see how he develops. You shouldn't let a guy go to draft a guy that you hope can be the guy you replaced. Like, I think that's bad business. You didn't get better, you ran in place. And now DeForest Buckner was an anchor on a Colts defense that was outstanding last year. He's become one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. He can play on the edge or on the inside. That versatility. He's just really, really good. He's freakish size, and he's going to be one of the dominant interior defensive line guys for a long time. And number 3, I got Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward is the man. He's the guy making it happen on that Pittsburgh defense.
You're giving him the credit?
I'm giving him the credit. He's the best player in that Pittsburgh defense. He's the guy. Yes.
You said in our last video that you thought TJ Watt was the defensive player of the year.
I thought he was, but I think Cam Hayward's the guy making it. But defensive player of the year is about production. That's not more necessarily about how process and how you're getting it done. Cam Hayward is the guy you have to defend. You have to game plan for in that defense, or he'll wreck your game plan. And he's only gotten better with age. That's the only thing about Cam Hayward that people question is that he's 33 years old already. But it still is giving him back because he deserved it, because he has been unbelievable in terms of a pass rusher at his age, incredibly stout run defender. The Steelers' defense was elite because of him, and he's the centerpiece of that defense, not T.J. Watt. Cam Hayward is that guy. And number 2, this is going to be interesting because apparently in this preseason he's played most of his snaps at edge, according to PFF. But
only because Frank Clark's going to jail. Probably.
He's got the NFL record for most consecutive games with a sack. Chris Jones, he is unbelievably dominant. He has been the best. He's probably the second best player in Kansas City, I would argue. That's with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all those guys. That's how dominant Chris Jones is.
Highest, he's top 5.
And he don't got Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. That's all I'm saying. So Chris Jones.
Those guys were good before Patrick Mahomes got there.
Chris Jones is one of those. I think he's the unquestionably number 2 on this list. He's just not Aaron Donald. That's the only thing that you can say about Chris Jones. That's how amazing he is. Obviously, number 1 on this list is Aaron Donald. He's the best defensive player of this generation.
Nothing else has to be said.
Nothing else has to be said about that. Go ahead, Isaiah.
All right. So I think you're still high on Hayward and Cox.
Yeah.
I think both of those guys have been living on their name more than their production. I went back and watched, and I watched enough Eagles to watch. I'm telling you, Graham is looking like he's still standing up pretty well, and Hargreaves popped off the film. I don't know about Fletcher Cox. Maybe he's just eating up so many double teams. But
the tackles are the production always going to show in the stats. But he's making an impact.
So at number 5, I have the newly paid Leonard Williams.
You didn't even want to pay him.
The disrespect.
You didn't want to pay him.
I didn't know how they could pay.
I
didn't know how they could pay him and pay other people, but they worked it out. He got the free agency.
Yeah, they let the best defensive lineman y'all seen walk last year. That's how they pay.
You've been saying
that's an NBA burning contract.
I've been telling you you've been saying, pushing the narrative that Dalvin was better. When Leo Williams is the pass rusher of the defensive tackle, you say of the interior guys, you say you like pass rush. And Dalvin's
I think Dexter's that guy. I think Dexter's going to show that. He got 3 sacks in week 17 without being blocked.
You're just mad that he got 3 sacks and broke the streak. Leo Williams, he's on the players list over a couple of the guys you had over him. You didn't even have him on the top 10.
I don't care about the players list.
The players.
30% of those players respond to that list, bro.
And the elite ones, mostly the elite ones.
Those players don't care.
But yeah, Leonard Williams, I don't know if he'll be jumping into the top 3 because I think the top 3 is pretty sealed off right now. But come on, he carried a defensive front 7 that's not very strong.
Carried it with Dalvin Tomlinson and Dexter Lawrence.
It's strong, but he's the strongest player on it, and that's why he's the one getting $20+ million per year.
He was just the one he was just the pass rusher who hit free agency.
11th career year, and let's not forget, I was high on him coming out of his draft. Everybody thought he was the best player in his draft, so he has draft pedigree. And he had a couple great seasons with the Jets his first 2 years.
That's true.
So I'm not going to forget about that. So it's not like this is the first time he's ever broken out.
No doubt.
I don't know how he ended up on Moody outside of Moody's top 10.
I don't know how he was trolling. I don't know how he's top 5 on yours.
Because based off last season, like projecting forward, he looks like a guy that's got a couple. He's ascending into his prime, and you put a couple guys I think are not going to be in their prime, like in Hayward and Cox. So we could go on and on. Moody loves keep guys who have done it, but usually if it means you've done it, it usually means you're not going to keep doing it for so much longer because the NFL is a not-for-long league. I think Leonard Williams is going to cement his spot as a top 5 interior defensive lineman. And number 4, he wasn't on my edge list because I consider him an interior guy. I've got J.J. Watt. He's the guy that faced – I still think he led the league in double teams faced. He had to put on that god-awful Houston Texans team. I mean, what more can we say about J.J. Watt other than he's probably overrated now?
Like, if you consider him an edge, he's an honorable mention guy. But if you're calling him an interior defensive lineman, he gets a boost because that's a different standard that he has to reach.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's not a guy who's elite at both anymore. He's more of a guy who's dominant defensive run stop defensive tackle who can still beat guys with quickness.
Yeah, he got mentioned in both our edge and interior defensive linemen.
Like I said in the last video, he was at such a peak. Like when Aaron Donald finally starts dropping off, his peak was so high that even at his age and injuries, he's still very, very good. He's just older now.
And number 3, I'm surprised you underrated him a little bit, but we got him in the same spot practically. Mr. Deforest Buckner.
Yeah.
We can't reiterate how much that we feel that San Francisco made a terrible decision letting him walk out the door to just use the pick to go get Joffrey Simmons. So they better hope that they fix their quarterback situation so we could not have to worry about the fact that they don't have Nick Bosa. And we never let him off the hook because Deforest wasn't even mentioned in our edge rush list.
Yeah,
they made bad decisions along the defensive line, and to let Deforest Buckner change the Colts defense. They weren't a top half of the league defense. They were like a borderline top.
He put that defense over the top.
And as soon as he joined, they're top 10, top 5. Giving Aaron Rodgers problems in the playoffs, giving Josh Allen fits in the playoffs. Not Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, but Aaron Rodgers in the season. But giving Josh Allen fits in the playoffs. I mean, he changed that defense. Their secondary is not that strong. I think no one if I have to give him a comp, I believe like Gregory Rousseau, who's coming out, like in his ideal situation, if he was to put on some weight, he could play that Deforest Buckner role really well. But like he's got size, strength, like length at arms that
he's 6'7". It's just he like when you're looking like for a modern edge 3 technique type of movable piece on the defensive line, Deforest Buckner is what you're looking for.
Yeah, for San Francisco to let him out the door,
back home.
Yeah, and like we don't even have to mention Chris Jones. He's 2. He's the guy. He's clearly
not Aaron Donald.
He's not Aaron Donald. But I will say if he had another like he was one more amazing season away from making it an argument.
I don't think so. I think
if he had another run where he just got sacks every game, he could have maybe made an argument.
It'll be more because he's trying to be 1B.
Yeah, he can't be 1. It's not an argument. Like it's not an argument. He's 2 and he's got to be 2. If he continued to run that he had, I think he had a little bit of a down year last year, but apparently in the preseason they're moving him around. We'll see what
that's gonna unlock him. If he can make it happen on the edge, if you can't send double teams at him anymore, that's gonna he has massive upside. He has Aaron Donald upside. Like I think he does have that, but he has to show it like Aaron Donald has shown it.
And number 1.
Come on, we're done. Eric, what do you think about the rest of the list, man?
Hold up. Before Eric jumps in, I'm not letting this man off the hook for disrespecting Leonard Williams. Like,
He
not even on the
You
list.
didn't even want to pay him.
Because I thought it would mess up our cap situation.
You
But they
got a
figured that
top
out.
5 interior pass rushing D tackle. You're not worried about what he's doing today.
I didn't say I didn't want to pay him. I said in our prediction video, I said I predicted.
Yeah, because you had to. That's what you're saying.
And if I'm saying we have to, what does that mean? What did we say?
That's not.
If you have to, it's because he showed you I'm too good. We have to pay him. If we let him go, we have to pay him. And what can I say? He's on the players list. He's on PFF's list. He's on all the major lists of interior guys, and you don't even have him on the top 10, and he's on everybody's list.
I think he's 11. If I was making a top 10, he probably. I made a top 10. He'd be my 11 in my opinion.
Leonard, make this man eat his words. Beat up on Zach Martin a couple times, and make this man eat his words.
Because when Zach Martin was out there playing, we was busting y'all ass on offense. With Leonard Williams not doing anything. So that's what I want to see.
In the season.
I want to see him show up against the All Pros, not get 3 sacks off of Cam Irving and Terrence Steele.
He disrespected Chase Young and Leonard Williams because they put
Chase Young in the same. I had Chase Young higher. Like, what are you talking about?
No, I thought I did, but that's for another video. But he disrespected Leonard Williams. Eric, go ahead. Let's repeat our list one more time so you can get in on this.
Yeah.
1, Aaron Donald. 2, Chris Jones. 3, Deforest Buckner. 4, J.J. Watt. 5, Leo Williams. 6, Joffrey Simmons. 7, Grady Jared. 8, Quinn Williams. 9, Fletcher Cox. 10, Calais Campbell.
I didn't have J.J. Watt on my list. I have him as an edge, not as an interior defensive lineman. So we'll just have that.
Check out our edge video.
At 1, Aaron Donald, obviously at 1, Chris Jones at 2, Cam Hayward from Pittsburgh at 3, DeForest Buckner from Indianapolis at 4, Fletcher Cox from Philly at 5, Grady Jared from Atlanta at 6, Vita Vea from Tampa Bay at 7, Jonathan Allen from Washington Football Team at 8, Kenny Clark from the Green Bay Packers at 9, and Quinn Williams from the JTS Jets at 10.
Well, first, Isaiah, how do you not have Jonathan Allen on your? I think he's top 10.
He better than Leonard Williams. No, he better than Leonard Williams.
Then why Leonard Williams making more money? He
got paid more recently.
No, Jonathan Allen did. Because he got paid. Leonard Williams got paid in free agency, and Jonathan Allen got paid before camp.
Jonathan got an extension though.
But he ain't get more money. But he ain't get more money. But he ain't get more money. But he ain't getting more money.
But I think Jonathan Allen is like the first building block of that front seven. I don't think
the first doesn't mean he's the best. I think he's because I clearly believe that Chase Young and Montez Sweat are the best 2 players on that defensive line. And I will argue there's a reason Matt Ioannidis has been sticking around for as long as he was
out last year though, so we gotta see about Matt Ioannidis is another guy who deserves honorable mention.
Yeah, we didn't bring him up, but yeah, he gets people fits.
Especially in Madden.
But no, Jonathan Allen I got him at 14. I got some guys who have done it a little bit better, a little bit longer over him. But trust me, we got Calais Campbell probably dropping out, and I'm predicting the fall for Hayward and Fletcher Cox, and Kenny Clark. So he's ascending. While there's some guys who have been doing it a long time really well, I'm pretty sure are going to be out of the way. So don't worry, he's going to get his gist, and he's playing with Chase Young and Montez Sweat, so he's going to eat.
What was is it Chris Jones the one who false started against New England, or was that D4?
That's D4.
We don't bring up D4 anymore.
It's no problem. He got them all sides.
He cost them 3P probably.
Yeah. Hate to see it.
But I don't know. I think Quinn Williams. I think he's a great.
You put Quinn Williams over Leo.
Yeah. Okay. I
had Williams higher.
And you had Williams higher.
But that's so disrespectful. Continue, Eric.
I don't know if you can give Hayward the credit for
That's the guy, man. He's the guy making that defensive tick. He's the guy.
I think you've been
eating the blocks and beating double teams. He's holding up on.
That's
guys,
another. He was here first guy. He was here first. We'll give him some credit. A lot of guys here getting credit here first. They're interior defensive linemen. Like if either you're doing it or you're not at the time because edge guys are more valuable.
Can't been doing it at a high level on the league's best front seven for a while.
Like Fletcher Cox, they've both been living off their names for a couple seasons now. I don't know how he got that extension, but we'll see.
Because he earned it.
We'll see. Joffrey Simmons, Eric, another young guy.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the job done. I mean, I don't know which he does well.
Grady Jared, how you feel about him? He's another guy that we thought.
What I remember from him is when Claiborne went for those 6 sacks against Dak. Jarrett was the one. Get out of the way. Here you go. You can go. Get out. He was the one opening the holes.
That was Dak's fault. Nah, Grady Jared had nothing to do with that. Chaz Green was just not touching him. He was a revolving door. That Eric was spearing my QB1 in the head. The man had a concussion. I'm sorry.
All right, then lastly, Eric, I want your opinion on the Leonard Williams discussion. He's top 10 on everybody's list, top 7 most of the way. But Moody said he only gets an honorable mention. He couldn't even get on Moody's list. Now, he definitely belongs in the 5 to 7 range at worst.
I think he deserves in the top 10, obviously, but I don't think it's too disrespectful if he says he has him at 11. That means he's the next man up. And if you're talking about all these people descending, that means he's going to jump into the top 10 eventually.
The thing about Leo,
I can see him being
he's in his prime, so I don't know how much more ascending he's got in him.
Yeah, I think if it's for guys he can jump on my list, Kenny Clark, Fletcher Cox, if those guys have old age cliff drops, then I think Leonard Williams could be comfortably in the top 10. But for right now, I saw a guy who made a lot of plays on bad teams.
You saw one game where he broke the streak against the Cowboys.
I didn't see a dominant.
Look at that Seattle. He was dominant in the Seattle game.
What's that Seattle defense? Alden Smith had 3 sacks against the Seattle Seahawks. We know the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is.
It's not been bad. Russell Wilson, when you can get Russell Wilson to hold the ball, you need someone to still show up and run him down. Running down Russell Wilson is
it's harder now. He's 30-something.
And lastly, I think he jumped the gun a little on Vita Vea, a guy who's been hurt a lot. I think he's a talented player. But you want to talk about a guy who's got 3 more veteran players doing the job for him. It's Sue, JPP, and Barrett, guys who we all talked about.
It's rare to have a one technique nose tackle type who's a top 10 in the league pass rush run rate. Dexter Lawrence is just as good that is impressive. No, Vita Vea is De'Aaron Payne's class 18, I think. I think he's in that class.
So
and Dexter's is 19. So
they do the same. They're the same type of player.
I'm big on Vita Vea. He's a massive human being with freakish athleticism. I think he's only not on the list because of the games he didn't play.
He could be a Vince Wilfork type of defensive player
with some better pass rush.
But man, he's missed a lot of games.
Vita
Vea, Eric, how do you feel about Vita Vea? He's in your division.
He's definitely one of the biggest interior linemen I've ever freaking seen. He's a gap stopper. He can just clog up the front line. He does his job well. It's just availability is the most important ability.
I think any other guys any up and comers guys that we think can end up on the list.
Your man Derek Brown Jr. Is he making the jump into the?
He coming. Last season, he was very streaky last year. There would be points where you're like, this guy can be dominant in the league, and then there's points where I forget he was our first rounder and he was even playing. Yeah.
And I'll say another guy who's just like that is Mr. Ed Oliver, a guy I thought was going to be for sure Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber player.
He's undersized.
Aaron Donald's undersized too.
Not everyone's got that. Aaron Donald's got strength that he's just unmatched.
I thought we were going to get it from Ed Oliver, an Aaron Donald type of player, but we're still waiting for the breakout to happen. And I think he's going into his 4th contract year.
For who?
Aaron Oliver, who was in.
He's
still on the Bills, right?
Yeah. He's helped their and their defense took a tailed off because they were relying on him a lot too.
All right.
But I think that's it. Anything else, Eric?
No, I think we covered it well, boys. Good job.
Is Aaron Donald's the king? Everybody fighting for second place.
Yes, sir.
Mainly Chris Jones and Deforest Buckner.
Again, people, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, get in the discussion with us in the comment section, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. All right, boys.